Ooh, all blacked out screen. Very dramatic. What's up, folks? So today we are going to be talking about unusual saltwater fish. Now, if you think this list is going to be composed of a bunch of weird stuff that you find in the ocean, that's not necessarily what we're going to be doing in this video. We're going to be taking a look at unusual saltwater aquarium fish, whether they are a good candidate for a reef tank or just a fish-only tank or a saltwater tank. That is the type of fish that we're going to be diving into today. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can be notified every time that we do a video, because we do one every week. Kicking things off with number 10, the Hihat saltwater fish. Now, this guy is definitely not the most colorful saltwater fish out there, but that's also what makes it kind of unusual. Outside of its dorsal fin, it's pretty bland in its coloration, typically found in black and white and maybe even some muted shaded colors of gray. These guys are considered moderate care level, have a peaceful temperament, are considered carnivores, are reef safe with caution, and can grow upwards of 9 inches. That's pretty large for the saltwater fish. So you want to make sure that you put it in a tank that is going to be the right size for this fish. The recommendation is 70 gallons. I personally feel like that is a little small, especially for a 9-inch fish. I probably would go more along the lines of 125 gallons if I was going to be keeping one of these in an aquarium. If you're looking to spice up the unusual game in your aquarium, check out the Hihat. Coming in at number 9 on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is the coral catfish. Now, this guy goes by a couple different names. He is the striped eel catfish, saltwater catfish, marine catfish. Doesn't really matter what you call it. This guy is pretty unusual, and if I saw it in a saltwater tank, I'd be taken back a little bit. I haven't seen one of these guys personally, but when they first start out, they are mostly dark in coloration, and as they mature, they develop these white, yellowish lines down the side. But as far as care level for these guys, they are considered easy. They do have an aggressive temperament, omnivore-based diet, reef safe with caution, and can grow upwards of a foot. So that's pretty large. All that considered, minimum tank size, again, 70 gallons. I probably, a foot long fish, probably would want to put it in a much larger aquarium myself personally. But in a specific species setting, you may be able to get away with a smaller aquarium overall. Check them out, the coral catfish. Coming in at number 8 on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is the bicolored goatfish. Meh. The one thing that sets the goatfish apart from other fish is that it has these little whisker feeler deals on the bottom of its jaw, which also gives it its name, the goatfish. These guys, even though are interesting and don't look very saltwater-ish, I don't know if that's a word, but we're going with it, they are considered difficult to care for, so that's something that you need to consider if you are interested in keeping this fish. They are considered peaceful, have a carnivore-based diet, are reef-safe with caution, can grow upwards of 10 inches, and require a minimum tank size of 125 gallons. Coming in at number 7 on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is, in fact, a molly. Now, folks that are unaware of this, mollies actually can be kept in a saltwater aquarium. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and buy a bunch of mollies at your local fish store or your big box store and throw them into your reef tank, because that's probably going to be a recipe for disaster. It's a very slow process in making a molly become a saltwater molly. The overall process is incredibly slow, and it takes a lot of acclimation time to have a molly successfully become a saltwater molly. Now, the first time that I actually heard about this, I thought it was a joke, but after doing a little bit more research, figured out over at garf.org that it is actually possible to take a molly and turn it into a saltwater molly, and then they act exactly the same way in a saltwater tank as they do in a freshwater tank, doing a tremendous job of removing algae, making sure there's no uneaten food, and they continue to breed at the same rate as they do in a freshwater tank, which makes them a really interesting worker fish, especially folks out there trying to grow corals and reduce the amount of algae in a tank, because they do an amazing job of constantly consuming everything in the tank. The Dalmatian Leartail Molly is probably one of my favorites, and this guy is considered moderate care level, has a peaceful temperament, omnivore-based diet, can grow upwards of 4 to 5 inches, requires a minimum tank size of 30 gallons. Coming in at number 6 on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is the mimic saddle pufferfish. Now, the interesting thing about this guy and what makes it incredibly unusual is that it is not a puffer. It is actually a filefish pretending to be a puffer. That's a pretty good thing to pretend to be, especially on the wild reefs. These guys are considered moderate care level, have a peaceful temperament, omnivore-based diet, are considered reef safe with caution, and grow upwards of 4.5 inches and require a minimum tank size of 30 gallons. Now, the important thing about these guys is that they are incredibly docile. Peaceful, definitely a key word to be used with this guy. And you want to make sure that you don't have him in a tank that is going to have some semi-aggressive bullying going on, because he will not do very well at all. Check him out, the Mimic Saddle Puffer. Coming in at number 5 on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is the blue stripe pipefish. Now, anytime that you're talking pipefish, definitely want to talk about how peaceful they actually are, and definitely want them in a tank that is going to be peaceful. That's the name of the game, and that's what's going to help you be successful with these guys. They are considered expert only carnivores and are reef safe with caution, grow upwards of 3 inches, and require a minimum tank size of 30 gallons. Check them out, the blue stripe pipe fish. Coming in at number 4 on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is the leaf fish. Now, we featured this guy on our bottom dweller saltwater fish top 10, and they are definitely an unusual saltwater fish, so that's why we've included them on this list. They are considered moderate care level, are semi-aggressive, very interesting fish. They don't swim too much at all, hardly at all, and they spend most of their time on the bottom of the tank. They do this also because that's kind of their deal when they are hunting. They're very still, don't move around a whole lot, kind of creep along the bottom, and they have a carnivore-based diet, so that's something that you want to make sure that you are aware of prior to buying this guy. They are reef safe with caution and can grow upwards of 4 inches and require a minimum tank size of 30 gallons. Some very interesting colorations, very interesting fish, definitely unusual, and that's why it's coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 on our top 10 is the Longhorn cowfish. Now, these guys are incredibly interesting, definitely unusual in shape. They are considered expert only. So you want to make sure that you have a very well-established reef tank and also can meet the requirements of this guy so that he can live a long, happy life. They are considered peaceful, have a omnivore-based diet, are reef safe with caution, because every once in a while they may nip a little bit at the invertebrates, so it's something to take into consideration. They can grow upwards of 1.5 feet, which is pretty large, and considering their swim style, that's an interesting dynamic as far as a saltwater fish goes. Minimum tank size on these guys is 250 gallons. Now, one thing that you need to consider when you are taking a look at the Longhorn cowfish is that they are toxic and can release that toxicness whether they die and or are stressed. So definitely one that you want to make sure that you have all the facts before you purchase. Check it out, the Longhorn cowfish. Coming in at number 2 on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is the wartskin angler. Now, the crazy thing about these guys is they actually spend more time crawling around the bottom of the reef tank than they do actually swimming. They are considered moderate care level, have a peaceful temperament, carnivore-based diet, are reef safe with caution. So you always want to make sure that you do your research before you pick one of these guys up. They can grow upwards of 4 inches and require a minimum tank size of 20 gallons, and that has a lot to do with this individual's swim style. Doesn't do a whole lot of swimming, so you can get them in a smaller reef tank, preferably a specific tank for this type of fish. Check it out, the wartskin angler. And coming in at the number 1 spot on our top 10 unusual saltwater fish is the flying jet sea moth fish. Whole bunch of crazy going on with this guy. He is considered expert care level, peaceful temperament, has a carnivore base diet, is reef safe with caution, can grow upwards of 8 inches, and requires a minimum tank size of 50 gallons. Now, why this guy is considered expert level only is due mostly to its feeding habits, and that being it only eats live foods. So that's a pretty tall order for a lot of hobbyists out there, and that's why this guy should be left to the experts. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you want to learn more about saltwater fish and saltwater tanks, check this video out. I'll see you over there.